IVM.
Welcome to another episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I am your host for this week, Ashwin. We have a full house. We are down into the death overs, as you would call it, of the IPL 2020. Exciting times. There are a couple, at the time of recording this, there are 3 matches left in the group stage. Varun, how are you feeling, man? DJ and I talked last week about this existential dread that starts to set in near the end of the IPL. I know you guys were talking today about what are we going to do with our lives after IPL ends, right?
Yeah, I really don't know what I'm going to do, but as a Delhi fan, we're going to talk more about it. The feeling I have right now, you mentioned death overs, I feel like Vijay Shankar in the Nidas Trophy final. That's what I'm feeling right now.
The question is, can we become Dinesh Karthik in that final instead? DJ, it's been a hell of a week, right? Pardon my language, but man, I think at the time again of recording this, CSK and Punjab are done. We now have one team through to the playoffs. We have 2 teams officially mathematically out. That's CSK and the Kings 11 Punjab. I mean, it feels like most years it goes down to the last day, right? Before you get final confirmation of the qualifiers. But how incredible has this year been in terms of just staying close?
Yeah, it's been insane because last year, if I remember correctly, there were a number of teams tied at 12 points. And this year there's and one of the teams went through on 12 points. But this year you've got people on 14 points who are still not assured of a playoff berth yet. So it's close. I'm not sure whether that's by design or whether some teams are just playing bad cricket or whether there's dips in form. But it is definitely close. There's lots of combinations. We spend a lot of time just trying to work out what happens depending on who wins each game. So at least there's no dead rubber. So it's going to go all the way to the wire, taking it deep this IPL.
Absolutely. That's the MS Dhoni model that DJ so loves. But Varun, let's go through. I'm not going to go. We'll take a minute and go through the games since our last midweek episode. But I really just want to start with the points table, right? Mumbai Indians, 30 seconds. Anything quick to say about them? 13 matches, 9 wins. Is this an IPL where everybody's fighting for second place at this point?
I think so, man. I think that they're just too strong. And I was randomly thinking about it the other day. I think a lot of their players are still in their 20s. And that's a bit scary for other franchises because the Mumbai Indians is so far ahead of the next best that I think you're right. I think people are just playing for second spot.
Now, the thing with the final model is, so Mumbai is guaranteed top 2. DJ, do you think Mumbai is at least that team that is, fallible on their day? Could it happen that they make the finals and then one of the teams just shows up and wins? Remember, Ben Stokes put up a special, beat the Mumbai Indians by 8 wickets. 2 of them, actually, now that I think about this, they lost the first match of the series of the IPL. They lost a Ben Stokes special, but the only other 2 losses were both in super overs. Have they just been so clinical, or do you think one of the teams can bring it? Is that just the joy of 2020 cricket that one player has a good day and you can take it away?
Man, so I remember us talking about Mumbai being weak in super overs, but oh my God, even by resting players, they rested Hardik in the last game. Rohit isn't fit. I mean, there's a lot of chatter about that because he's not part of the Australia squad and there wasn't much communication around that. But I mean, they have so many reserves for their players other than perhaps in the spin department, which we pointed out first, but they look so strong. They are assured of the top spot. They will play the first playoff. Frankly, other than them having a very bad day or some other team having a very, very good day, like Stokes had against Mumbai, I can't see them really, and I hate to say this as a Delhi fan, I mean, we haven't still made it to the playoffs, but I don't see them not winning this IPL, making them like the 5-time champions, man. The Mumbai fans are having a great time sitting pretty at the moment.
Yeah, tale of 2 cities, right? The 2 most successful franchises, the Mumbai Indians fans are loving this year, and the Chennai SuperKings, who are also one of the most successful franchises in history, sitting right at the bottom in 8th place. But let me come to the next 2 teams. Varun, DJ and I have talked a lot about momentum and kind of form, if you will, right? Like when you talk about, one win leads to the next or players finding their own and dressing room, etc. And so the second place team are the Royal Challengers Bangalore, which I don't think has happened for a while. So very excited for them. And the third place team are, of course, our boys, the Delhi Capitals. At the time of recording this, going into the final group match of the season, which is RCB versus Delhi, which will become a critical match. Bangalore have lost 3 in a row. Delhi have lost 4 in a row. So obviously one of them has to mathematically break that losing streak going into Monday's game. But how important is momentum in a tournament like this?
Yeah, one of them has to mathematically go into that game unless they play super overs for like the next 12, 14 hours. But yeah,
which is possible, right?
Or it rains in the desert, which is equally likely, right?
Yeah, like we said, right? I think in the Punjab versus Mumbai game, they said at one point Mukesh Ambani is going to be bowling to Preeti Zinta. So you never know; it could happen. But I think this just brings me back to the momentum discussion that you were mentioning. It's unbelievable. Teams can have 4 or 5 wins on the trot. You've seen Punjab lose and then win 5 on the trot. You've seen Delhi. You've now seen RCB lose on the trot. I think there is a big factor of that, right? I mean, when the IPL is played in India, a lot of that is brought down to there's a lot of hectic travel schedules, and you reach back from the game to your hotel at like 2 a.m. At 5, you got to be up and on the plane for the next venue. So it's hectic. But in this, I just can't figure it out. I don't know if the pitches are getting slower. I don't know if the pitches at the start suited certain teams and now they're not able to adapt. But I mean, you're at a position where you expect a certain level of cricket, and both Delhi and Bangalore have just not been up to the mark.
DJ, anything to add?
Yeah, and just on that point, we were talking about Mumbai and whether anyone can beat them. I think the best chance anyone has of winning this tournament is to defeat them in the first qualifier game, basically, of the playoffs, where otherwise, if Mumbai go to the finals, I just think that it's going to be so hard. The problem with that is these two teams, Delhi and RCB, one of which will have to finish second mathematically again. They just don't look like teams that can beat the Mumbai Indians at the moment unless something drastic changes, right? So, that's just the that's my worry with this tournament, because unless Mumbai Indians lose that game, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're absolutely right. The only person standing between these two teams and Mumbai Indians is probably AB de Villiers. Is that right?
Kohli, AB de Villiers, hopefully. I mean, why not our Delhi boys?
I mean, come on. I mean, an AB de Villiers special, definitely Kohli, but Kohli is not done well enough this tournament. But I mean, I agree with you. And that's why I was just going to say that DJ has made the best point. Like a Ben Stokes special, a Warner special, an AB de Villiers special, that's what's going to beat Mumbai. But otherwise, I don't see them being beaten.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting, right? This is how high our bar, I'm going on a tangent. This is how high our bar is for Kohli. 13 matches this year, 431 runs. He's made 90. He averages 47.8 and he strikes at 122. So his strike rate's a little bit lower than it's historically been. He's the 5th highest scorer on the run table. And yet we look at that and say Kohli has not had a good season. He has outscored even Devdutt Padikkal, who's had a great season at the top. So anyway, that's just a tangent. That's how much we expect from a guy who made 900 runs in a season, that even 431 and the 5th highest scorer, we called it not a good season. But back to the points table, because this is where all the excitement is. So Mumbai have qualified. First place. RCB or Delhi face off on Monday, which we'll talk about in a second, but one of them will end up in second place. The other is not still guaranteed a qualification. So because in third and fourth space for those 2 spots, you now have the other team, RCB or Delhi, Hyderabad, and then one of Rajasthan and KKR fighting for that spot. Now, by the time you guys listen to this episode, you will know which of Rajasthan or KKR won that match. We don't yet, so it's still a little bit exciting as we record this. But let's talk about KKR, because midweek, the day after we recorded our midweek episode, CSK played KKR. Obviously, CSK hasn't had a good tournament, etc. KKR comes out, makes 172. Nitish Rana looks great. CSK is in a chase where, by the way, DJ mid-chase messaged just basically saying, oh my gosh, this seems like yet another CSK chase. They left it a little bit too late. And Varun, let me ask you about this guy before I come to DJ. Out at number 6 walks Ravindra Jadeja. It's 31 of 11 balls, not out, obviously. Finishes the match with 2 sixes on the 5th and the 6th ball of the 20th over. I mean, when the squads came out, a lot of people were questioning Jadeja's role in the squad. Does he just time and again prove that he is an incredible asset to any T20 side?
I think so, man. I think the way he's played, he's been the finisher for CSK this entire season. And that KKR game, it's just to have that self-belief, to be able to come out and strike the ball at the strike rate was close to 300, 280 plus. I mean, I haven't seen that kind of batting in a long time, especially from CSK. So Jadeja was absolutely fantastic. The pitch was obviously not that great. You look at the strike rate of everyone else, including a Sam Curran, who we know is a hitter. They were struggling. So for Jadeja to just come up and take that into his own hands and hit a 6 and hit another 6 off the last ball to win them the game, it was just fantastic.
DJ, we often have this discussion about Ravindra Jadeja versus Krunal Pandya, right? Jadeja this year in the IPL has made 232 runs. He's gotten a 50. He has averaged 46. He strikes at 172. Meanwhile, Krunal Pandya has only made 95 runs. He's striking at 121 and averages 23. Obviously, hasn't had as many chances to bat because of Mumbai's top order success. But still, even when he has to strike at 121 versus 170 plus, is definitely weaker. I'm just looking through quickly. Jadeja's also taken 6 wickets this year. Krunal's only taken 5. I mean, is Jadeja closing the door on this argument for at least now?
I'm not sure, actually. In fact, I think the argument's been opened up even more by Akshar Patel, right, and his form this IPL. There's an argument for him to be clubbed in with those two players. So, I mean, frankly, I think Jadeja's role has been he's actually had a lot more batting to do this season because of the poor run by the CSK top order. And so he's done well. He's grabbed that opportunity. So well done to him. He's clearly justified his spot, if not closed the argument on it. I think he's definitely justified his spot. Although I think the argument will continue because the players are the same. They're all left-arm spinners, finger spinners, good fielders, Akshar, Krunal as well as Jadeja, and all can hold a bat, right? So I think until those 3 guys are active, there will always be a comparison drawn between 3. So, but yes, Jadeja was absolutely fantastic in that game. Those 2 sixes to end the game were just out of the world. I mean, he needed 1 run to win, right? But he still chose to hit Kamlesh Nagarkoti for 6, which was a big statement. Although I think Lockie Ferguson did help him by bowling a no ball, right? I always find it very odd. Like when there's a close chase of like 30 to get off 10, there's suddenly a no ball and a free hit. I mean, why can't people just keep their foot behind the line in those circumstances? Are they trying too hard? It's just sloppy, right? I mean, KKR have done it and it's happened so many times before. So I felt that was actually the turning point that allowed Jadeja to just unleash. And he did so magnificently.
Yeah, well said. So obviously kept Chennai's momentum a little bit alive and didn't want to end up at the bottom of the table. By the way, one of the commentators did say, we've all talked about how poor a season Chennai has had, etc., but they've ended on 12 points. They won 6 out of their 14 matches, right? Because of the end in the last 3. So yes, they got knocked out pretty early mathematically. But for the 8th best team in a league to have won 6 out of 8, that's just less than 50% win ratio. Just shows you how incredible this league has been. So I absolutely love it. But there's no surprise about that. So coming into Friday then, Punjab played Rajasthan. Punjab had the opportunity to basically get 1 foot in the door with the qualifiers, right? Obviously now we told you already they're out. There's no mathematical chance of making the top 4, which is disappointing for them. But they did have that opportunity by keeping Rajasthan at bay. And Rajasthan decided, you know what? We're not ready to leave this tournament yet. And so I want to talk about a couple of things. Varun, let me come to you first. Rahul opening. I think we've all talked a lot about Rahul and the fact that although he's the orange cap holder, he's the second slowest strike rate for an orange cap holder in the history of the league, only after Mike Hussey. So very, very telling. But then Chris Gayle walks in, makes 99 off 63. When he gets out, he's so angry at himself, he flings his bat all the way to mid-wicket, docked them some fair play points. But did Punjab miss a trick by not playing Gayle for the first few matches?
And did you miss a trick by not having him in your IPL GOAT team, Varun?
No, man. I still maintain that Gayle is not in my GOAT team, but he's a fantastic player. And Ashwin, I think to address your question, basically, it comes down to, I think Punjab knew that Gayle opening is a very different kind of a player, different kind of a role, and no team has had success in the IPL with Gayle opening. And I say success a little bit with a harsh tone there. They've reached the finals before RCB, but it's not worked. And so that's why I think Punjab, the minute they got Gayle back in, they won 5 on the trot. Gayle coming in at number 3 seems to have opened it up the innings a little bit. It allows Gayle to play a little bit more freely. If the openers do well, it allows him to consolidate a little. I think Gale's game is different as well. Like when I watch him bat, I almost feel like it's really difficult to get this guy out. And so he's not going through his usual, 6 hitting ability from ball 1. He's watching the ball a little bit more. But yeah, I wish they had played him earlier because the stats do prove that when Gayle is playing, Punjab does win.
Yeah, well said. I think very interesting and definitely been a turning point. And then, of course, DJ, let me ask you quickly, but Ben Stokes, he seems like he's been the turning point for the Rajasthan Royals, right? Had an outstanding outing against Mumbai, like we said. And then again today, obviously in this chase to keep Rajasthan alive, everybody did well, right? Uthappa stepped up, made 30. Samson made 48 of 25, looked good. Steve Smith actually looked pretty good with his 31, and Butler finished it off with 22. But Ben Stokes, 50 off 26 balls, man of the match again. And he also picked up 2 wickets, right? So did Rajasthan again early in the season miss Ben Stokes too much because he wasn't available for selection?
Oh, absolutely. And it's him coming back into form, probably after hearing the Edges and Sledges cricket podcast criticize him so roundly. It's just been a complete game changer. They've got that momentum at the top of the order. There were questions whether Butler should be batting at that top of the order. And I personally felt, and maybe Varun as well, we both felt that they should swap their roles out, and Stokes should bat low down the order, and Butler should bat at the top of the order. But I mean, in the last 2 games, he's come out swinging. He's kind of muscled the ball over the infield in the power play overs, and he's given them that impetus, which somebody like a Sanju Samson can come in and then capitalize on. It gives him some time to settle in instead of having to go from ball 1. You've got the cushion of classic player like Steve Smith coming. When I say classic, like a great player, not in terms of technique. And then Josh Butler coming in as a finisher. So him striking form at the right time has given RR a chance in this tournament. I'm not saying they're going to qualify. I think because of this game and their net run rate, I don't know where they're going to end up. But it's certainly given them a shot of getting into the playoffs. And it is down to his brilliance with the ball as well and in the field as well. That catch that he took of Mandeep, just outstanding. So he's one of those people who lift the entire team with their performance. So he's definitely had an effect on those guys.
Yeah, well said. So we talked about it a little bit. I wanted to wrap up this part of the conversation before we got, good day actually to be joined by CSK fans for the second half of this show. So stay tuned for that because they'll be on a little bit of a high coming off 3 wins despite not qualifying. But coming into Super Saturday, where it was critical, right? Delhi played Mumbai in the early game. A win for Delhi would have sealed qualification. Bangalore played Hyderabad in the later game. A win for Bangalore would have sealed qualification. And it just feels sometimes like these 2 teams who have never won the IPL before are making it a little bit more difficult for themselves, if you will, right? So Varun, let me ask you first about the Delhi game. I really, really, really don't want to relive this, but we have to mention it. Otherwise, we'd be doing a disservice to our listeners, right? But 110 for 9 after 20 overs. Nobody stepped up with the bat. Couple of changes in the side. So Praveen Dubey got his debut as a young domestic leg spinner, and Harshal Patel came back in for Tushar Deshpande. So let me ask you first, Akshar has had a good season. DJ even mentioned him up in the caliber of Jadeja and Krunal, and then he got dropped for a leggy. We had all talked about the need for a leggy in this Delhi side, the loss that came from Amit Mishra being left out. But did Akshar deserve to get dropped? And just talk me through kind of that 110 for 9 against Mumbai.
Yeah, I don't think Akshar deserved to get dropped. I think if the logic was they shouldn't play 3 spinners, they should have brought in Sandeep, right? He's a leg spinner, and he should have. My view is he should have played. I know all 3 of us believe the same thing. But I mean, Akshar aside, the quality of cricket was just so poor. It was unbelievable, right? I mean, Prithvi Shaw comes back, gets out for 10, again playing rash shots. Dhawan, for all his greatness with 2 centuries, has now had 2 back-to-back ducks. And that doesn't really help the team's cause. Pant looks confused as hell. Shreyas Iyer, every time he gets going, seems to get out. Stoinis, I can't remember the last time he did something for this team. And I mean, I don't want to labor on this point, but I think the challenge for us has become there is no 1 or 2 people that are in form. There's nobody on this orange cap batting list. Rabada is there, but he's just had a massive loss of form in the last 2 games, which is okay. I mean, you can't blame everything on him. It's okay to have an off day. But I think this is what happens in teams when, you don't have a Warner, you don't have a Stokes, you don't have a KL Rahul or a Virat Kohli. There's nobody standing up consistently who you can count on for the runs. Even KKR, who's not done as well. They've got Shubman Gill, who is consistently scoring, and the rest of the team plays around him. Delhi is struggling. I don't know if you mentioned Delhi Capitals or if I heard Delhi Daredevils, but it definitely feels like the Delhi Daredevils for me.
Yeah, that's been the running joke, right? The Capitals had a good start to the season, and it looks like the Daredevils have made an appearance again for the second half. So let's hope they can put that behind them. I will say, obviously just in that match, Mumbai came in, Ishan Kishan stepped up, made a clinical 72, took the match home. But then Bangalore came in to face Hyderabad. Having seen that result, the Royal Challengers of Bangalore knew that a win would have guaranteed them top 2 actually. And weren't able to pull it out, right? So DJ, let me ask you about this one, right? Similar story almost, right? 120 for 7, 10 runs more than the Delhi team made. Pretty fantastic bowling by Sandeep Sharma, got 2 early wickets, but then Holder, Rashid, everybody backed them up. But Kohli got out at 7. De Villiers looked like was going to look good, but couldn't tee off. And they ended up with 120, which again, the Hyderabad team chased down pretty easily. So are the pitches changing more than they thought, or was it just pure pressure? Because RCB followed the DC template almost exactly. That set us up for a shootout on Monday.
It's like those two backbenchers in class. When one of them fails, the other one is like, how can I pass? Main to tumhara dost hu. I can't go ahead of you. So it's like we're both racing to the bottom. And RCB actually, I felt they had more intent in the field. They actually believed that they could defend that 120. Maybe the pitch was more difficult to bat on, but SRH won it superbly. I mean, like Holder and his finish, and they've got the best net run rate amongst all the teams that can finish potentially on 14 points, right? So, the Sunrisers beat Delhi to spoil the party and then beat the RCB. So, it's just that loss of momentum for these two teams. I mean, it wasn't a super Saturday, let's put it that way, for people who support the DC and RCB, but it kept the tournament well and truly alive, and it kept that playoff spot open, right? So one of those two teams is going to end second, and without RCB following their friends Delhi Capitals and losing, that wouldn't have been possible. So very, very interesting few days up ahead, right, for all of us.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better. So just to wrap up again, Mumbai Indians through in first place. Monday's game, RCB versus Delhi. The winner will take second place. The loser, it has a shot at third or fourth space and is going to actually be reliant on the Hyderabad-Mumbai match, which is the final 56th match of the group stages. And as it stands, the loser of RCB Delhi, Hyderabad, and then the winner of KKR and Rajasthan are all going to be fighting for that third and fourth spot. So you couldn't have scripted it better. Super, super, super exciting. I think, funnily enough, the loser of Monday's game will be reliant on Mumbai Indians to win on Tuesday. And, Mumbai will have more power in their hands to see who they want to take through to the playoffs. So with that brings us to a wrap of the first section of our show. A couple of quick notes. One, stay tuned for CSK listeners in the second half. And the second is, if you're wondering, hey, the India squads for the Australia tour released this week, how come these guys at Edges and Sledges aren't talking about it? We have been active on talking about it on social media. You can come check out our Discord page. There's lots of great conversation about it there. But we're going to cover that in much more depth as soon as the IPL ends, because we wanted to stay focused on the IPL for now. So soon enough, in the next couple of weeks, you'll see lots of great coverage of the India-Australia series. For now, we're going to take a quick break and be back with some CSK fans.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I want to let you all know about 2 new shows that we've launched this week. The first one is Millennial Athlete, hosted by Tanvi and Shlok. Both of them are, they spent their life playing badminton, and they know a lot of athletes, and they want to talk about the particular challenges that athletes face. Really, really great conversations. Do definitely check that out. The other show that I wanted to mention to you that we launched this week is Naan Curry. Naan Curry is a show about food and the history of food and the economics around food and its consumption and all that kind of stuff. It's a really, really interesting conversation. It's hosted by Sadaf, who's an author chef and former MasterChef India finalist, and Archit, who is a researcher who writes on behavioral science and economics. Definitely worth checking out. Besides that, we had a great week as always, right? Great stuff on all the normal shows. Do check those out. But with that, let me get you back to your show.
Welcome back from that break, and we are here with the CSK fans as part of this IPL 2020 listener campaign that we've been running. I'm very pleased to say that CSK have just won their match against the Kings 11 Punjab. So all these guys are in a good mood. I'm glad we did this today and not earlier in the tournament. But it is also the largest collection of fans we've had. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people on this podcast. It had to be 7 because obviously it's MS Dhoni and CSK. We've got people from India, we've got people from near London, we've got people from Melbourne where it's the middle of the night, we've got people from America. So it's truly a global podcast. I think Ashwin, I and Varun run it, and we think we're global, but I mean, we literally cover the entire globe now. So I'm just going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves very quickly. Uday, can you tell us where you're from and when you started supporting the CSK?
Hi, everyone, especially Ashwin and Varun, the double Gs, girls. So I'm from Hyderabad, and I started listening to the podcast a year ago on my commute to the office, and it actually reminded me how I used to have the banter with my friends in my college days. So these three friends just talk as if we are talking with our friends. So that's where I started listening to this, and from there it's every Monday. I never missed an episode.
Awesome. And have you been supporting the CSK from the very start, 2008?
Exactly. Yeah, I have been supporting Chennai since the beginning. I've been a fan of Dhoni since he did that epic chases in Pakistan and won accolades from Mushraf and all. So fan of Dhoni and obviously fan of CSK. And I have been with the team since 2008.
Incredible scenes. Avinash, over to you. Please introduce yourself and tell us how you started listening to Edges and Sledges and why you started supporting the CSK.
Thank you, DJ. Thanks for having me here. So I started listening to Edges and Sledges about a year and a half ago. Actually, it was a very sad moment for Indian cricket fans because I started listening to this podcast after India was knocked out of the semi-finals last year. I think I've told DJ this before. But yeah, I was looking for some sympathy, if I'm being honest, among cricket fans because I was started listening to the experts. And I found this podcast and I've been hooked on ever since. And talking about CSK, I was initially actually a Deccan Chargers fan for no other reason than the fact that they used to have some of their home matches in my state. But about around 2011, they just changed their team quite a lot. They left Rohit Sharma. And, the team was changed and they didn't have matches here. And by that point of time, Dhoni was my favorite player. So I decided to switch sides and I've been a fan ever since.
Incredible. I actually remember that episode very, very clearly because it's the one I think that Ashwin and I kick off about Dhoni in, right? That it's a very emotionally raw episode even now.
I think that's where a lot of our Dhoni debate started actually. Yeah, man.
Yeah. And that actually made it very, very real. I think that episode, I still remember being extremely emotional about that episode. And it was passionate arguments on both sides, both probably correct to some extent, right? So I think that one did resonate with us as well as a lot of listeners. So good to know that. I'm going to move on to Ajinkya, who's from Pune. So Ajinkya, you are also the winner of our IPL GOAT 11 contest, if I remember correctly. So maybe a quick introduction from you and why you support the CSK.
Hi DJ, thanks for having me. Hello everyone. Same with Avinash actually. I started listening to Edges and Sledges on the day after India lost the semi-final actually. I actually went out of my college hostel and I just wanted to have a break out of the whole thing. So I just plugged in and I actually liked it from then. Talking about CSK, well obviously since 2007-8, MS Dhoni has always been a fan favorite, a favorite for me as well. And it has always been a great relationship because most of their matches have also happened in Pune recently. And when there was the RPS versus Gujarat Lions match as well, it was a CSK 1 versus CSK 2 for us too. So it's always been CSK.
Chala versus Thala.
Yes.
Chinna Thala versus Thala.
Yes.
I just called him Chala. Awesome. Anant, I'm going to come to you. Anant, you are in Melbourne. It is the middle of the night for you. So thank you so much for joining us. It is an absolute pleasure. I know you've been a long time listener and you're a keen photographer, if I'm not wrong. So welcome to Edges and Sledges. When did you start listening to the podcast and when did you start supporting the CSK?
Thanks so much, DJ, for having me. Thanks as well to Ashwin. So I started listening to the podcast as such sometime in 2017 and 18. And that's when I started listening to podcasts and generally cricket podcasts around the world. And I was looking out for Indian cricket podcasts as such. And there weren't many back then. And I found you guys on Twitter. And that's how I started to have interactions and then started to listen. And what clearly struck me back then was not just the cricket banter, but also the quality of the production of podcasts, which was up with the other podcasts that I was listening up to in terms of whatever the great cricketer is, and then the other podcasts with respect to what Adam Collins and Jeff Lemon do and all, right? So it was that good. So that is how
that's great cricketer and the final word. I mean, those guys are professionals.
Yeah, in terms of the production of podcasts that you guys did was of that level, and with the fact that you were doing it regularly week on week, it's never going to be that easy. So it was quite some fun until the until the lockdown happened, there was a lot of live cricket that was going on. And after that as well, you had a lot of good people on the show, which kept us entertained. I used to also listen to this podcast even when I go to work. And during lockdown, Melbourne was relatively better than other parts of the world. So I was able to go out for runs and walks. And every time when I go out, I was hooked on to Edges and Sledges. And with respect to CSK, it's been there since 2008, right from day one of the IPL auctions. Even before Dhoni, without Dhoni as well, I would have still supported CSK, coming from the fact that I was from Chennai all the way. So that stuck me all the time. The other thing was with respect to the fact that the addition of Dhoni back in 2008, right? So that's an addition for us to support even more. The fact that this team's run really well last 12 years has hooked me on all the time.
Incredible scenes.
And then finally, the fact that, even though I've been in Melbourne, right, it's all the time the IPL happens only past midnight. So it becomes really, really difficult. And still, I try to stay up till about 4 a.m. every night whenever there's a Chennai match going on. And now with the daylight savings, the games finish at 5 a.m.
Dude, I assume you're working from home, so you don't go into the office like kind of blurry-eyed and stuff, which...
I do.
Oh, wow. Wow, incredible.
It's very difficult to commit yourself, but then that's the sort of commitment that I'm trying to have with the game and with Chennai. It's just this season that I missed a couple of games, like in the last 5 years after moving to Melbourne, because I had a baby just like a month ago. So the baby took some time. I couldn't watch as many matches this season.
So you're used to staying up all night anyway, so that's worked out quite well for you. And so hopefully your kid is going to be a CSK fan as well. But talking about younger fans, we also have with us Jay from Virginia. Jay, welcome to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. You're a younger CSK fan, so it's good to see that the next generation is getting into the CSK. Tell us a little bit about your love for the Chennai SuperKings. Is it from Dhoni or is it from something else? Where is it coming from?
Well, it's mainly from Dhoni, who is my favorite player. And so I started, my first IPL season that I watched was in 2018. And since then I have been supporting CSK. I found out about Edges and Sledges, I believe, at the beginning of 2020. So I think about January, February. And since, I was just at home for a big time from March all the way to even now, since it's all virtual. So yeah, just when you're at home, if you have nothing to do, it's nice to listen to Edges and Sledges podcast.
And you have your own cricket channel, right? You've got a YouTube channel where you have lots of videos and stuff from what I understand.
Yeah, I do also have a YouTube channel because I like posting just my thoughts and then also what I think teams should work on and all of that. So I do have a YouTube channel called Substitute Fielder. And then I've also actually decided to start a radio show. So yeah, that's something new that's been going like for a week now. So
very cool. Nice. What is the radio show called?
Crick Talk with Jay. It's just it's a radio here in the Washington DC area, and then there's an app on which you can listen. But yeah, just for the past week now, just half an hour every second Saturday.
Okay, awesome. So that's great. We've got two more fans still. Naveen, you're based somewhere close to me. So I'm in London. You're in Hertfordshire. So how did you start supporting the Chennai SuperKings? What is the connection between you and CSK?
Yeah, so firstly, for Edges and Sledges, I kind of listened to them. I could listen to you guys near the World Cup last year. I'm a big football fan, so I do listen to a lot of podcasts with football sides. And I thought it would be nice to have a cricket podcast as well. And I found you guys on Twitter. And yeah, I really like the podcast and I wanted to be part of it. So obviously, first, thank you guys for having me on the show. And for me, although I live in London, near London now, I was brought up in Chennai. I was born in Tamil Nadu and I was brought up near Chennai. So it's my city and my home. So since the inception of CSK, I've always supported them and always supported Dhoni. I've never actually managed to watch a CSK match, but I've been to Cheer Park a few times, but never managed to watch CSK matches yet. So hopefully next year I could maybe when if it does happen in India, so I could go and watch CSK for one last time before Dhoni retires. So yeah.
Incredibly, and we're going to come to that because definitely not is going to be the name of this episode, obviously.
Yeah.
Rohit, tell us about your love for the CSK and for Edges and Sledges. Tell us how you got involved.
So to begin with, I came across Edges and Sledges via Twitter in about January, February this year. And I used to listen to you guys on I had a lot of catching up to do sort of when I started. So I used to listen to you guys on a daily basis. The reason why I liked you guys was to first of all keep aside the cricket bit of it. I like the banter between the three of you. I liked how I could follow you where you guys are around and what's happening in your lives. There was another character added to it, what was lacking in other cricket podcasts. So that was endearing to me. On top of that, it was not like we're listening to experts. It was like we're listening to, sort of other opinions of other fans. For example, I did not like Kedar Jadhav being in the team as much as you guys. For example, nobody would come out and say that. None of the experts would express that sort of disregard openly. But I enjoyed that when I heard you guys say, or even Shardul Thakur to begin with. Okay, so those sort of things really helped me connect with you guys. And coming to Chennai, I think when I submitted my clip as an example in the beginning, it was in March, I think. That time I mentioned how I'm from Hyderabad and I was called a traitor for so long for supporting Chennai. And the reason is I think it's common amongst all the guys here. It's MS, it is Dhoni. I mean, he was absolutely my hero because most importantly, when he started playing, everybody said he did not have the technique, he's a blind hitter, that sort of thing. So for me, when he rose through the ranks, he was the captain and then he had his own team now and he was going to captain a franchisee. I had to rally behind him. And then what happened was we had Suresh Raina, we had Matthew Hayden, Muthaiya, all these guys who stood up, won us games. So it was more like a team emotional connect and it just stayed on. And the 2017 and 16 season when we were off, somehow I felt like when I looked at Raina playing for Gujarat, I was like, man, this guy should play well this game. So somewhere within me, I knew that this was a CSK connect and this is much stronger than anything else. And the way we came back in 2018, I mean, I converted many people around me into CSK fans. That's my biggest achievement for CSK. So that way, that bond has always been strong. And yeah, this season was not up to the mark, but nothing better than finding out new gems for us, right? Today you saw, back-to-back man of the match performances by Ruturaj. Something to take forward to, something to be glad about. We have Sam Curran and we have Jadeja, although I was disappointed with the way he bowled, but the way he's finishing games, that looks tremendous for us. So yeah, all in all, I'm still happy with the season we had. Could have been better, but yeah.
Yeah, in the final analysis, it doesn't look bad. 12 points. A lot of teams are going to end, at least 3 teams are going to end with 12 points, right, this season. So not the worst performance, of course, not something you guys are used to, having qualified for the playoffs every time the CSK has played. And of course, you've got Uday as well, who's from Hyderabad and is supporting the CSK. So Uday, are you a traitor as just like Rohit as well? Do you get that a lot?
Yeah, with my cousins, definitely. All of my cousins are Sunrisers fans being in Hyderabad, and they call me the traitor for the same reason.
Okay, awesome. So let's get into the questions. We put a call out for questions on Twitter, and it's all going to be, obviously, there's one man, number 7, helicopter guy, MS Dhoni. The questions today, he was asked at the toss, are you going to retire? Is this your last game for CSK? His answer was definitely not. Ajinkya, I'm going to come to you on this one. Do you think that is the right decision for the CSK?
I think definitely yes. Definitely not is the perfect definition for this. Too much definition there. But yeah, he should take this forward. I think we haven't lost because of his captaincy skills. Probably his batting. He's not batted that well. But he can always come back. Everyone has come out through a tough phase with the whole lockdown situation and everything that happened. So they'll be back March or April, whichever time this comes back. I think they'll be back, and with a few additions, as he mentioned at the end of the talk at the end of the match, that maybe a few tweaks here and there, or maybe an overhaul, depending on how the auctions go or how the trading goes in the off season. So yeah, that's a good thing to go.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Avinash, I'm going to come to you on the next one. GR at Normally Crazy asks, who will be the core for the next 10 years? Have those players been identified? And I'm going to just modify that slightly because you can only probably say for the next 3 years, right? Because of the mega auction that comes around usually every 3 years. So who do you think the core of the CSK team is going to be, Avinash, for the next 3 years?
I think if you do not count MS Dhoni, because obviously as a fan we know next year might be his last season. I think the core should consist of Ravindra Jadeja, Sam Curran, and probably Faf du Plessis there as the three players which I think CSK should retain next year. And then the other three players which they can use the right to match can be, Deepak Chahar and Shardul Thakur if possible. And I guess we can have Ruturaj Gaikwad. I think these six would form my core.
Very interesting. Does anyone have any thoughts on that core that they wanted to chip in on quickly? Maybe agree or disagree with?
Right now, he left halfway. Even before the start of the season. Maybe next season we could give him a balcony and he'll be happy with it.
Chinnathala back for the core. You think he's going to be back in the fold then, Naveen?
Hopefully. I think he should be. I think MS trusts him a lot, and it was the way he left at the beginning of the IPL. I still think he's got some unfinished business with CSK. So hopefully he will be back for the next couple of years at least.
Okay, awesome. Does anyone else want to chip in on that? Uday, maybe?
Yeah, come on, guys. How can you leave Kedar Jadhav out of this? At least use the right to match and get him on.
He's the first contract to be ripped off.
Isn't it already? It's over, right?
Hopefully.
Probably Mitchell Santner, because most matches, we come back to India, they will be happening in Chepauk, and Mitchell Santner as a spinner would actually add a more dimension. With Jadeja taking up more of a batting all-rounder role, Santner can take the bowling all-rounder who can bat a bit probably.
Anand, do you want to go next?
Yes, I'd probably go for someone who's not part of the CSK squad now, and someone from the other teams who would probably come back into the pool of auction sometime soon, which means people like, say, Ishan Kishan, someone who probably will not be retained by Mumbai as such. Then someone like him who just 22, 23 could form a core in CSK. That's like a wish list of sorts, and hopefully someone like Owen Morgan or Kane Williamson, if they can come in the auction, right? Then that would be really nice picks to look forward to in the CSK culture as such.
Awesome. Jay, I'm going to come to you on the next question. Does CSK having a say in who makes the playoffs potentially lessen the pain of a disappointing season in any way? Karthik O asks on Twitter.
Like winning those games against other teams, that is knocking some other teams out. And that's what's going to give them, I think, confidence as coming into the next season, also knowing that they've found some players who are performing well, like Ruturaj Gaikwad. But I think just knocking teams out, that's probably not going to be on their mind too much. It's probably just going to be go out there, play, and then got no pressure on you. So
and they were glad, I think, to end the season on a high. They're quite a proud team, and I think ending the season on a high was good for the CSK players. Another question actually from Twitter is, should Dhoni step into Fleming's shoes? And Rohit, I'm going to come to you on this one. Will he be able to nurture players better then, instead of commenting on lack of intent? And of course, this is referring to the spark in the youngsters comment that he made. So Rohit, he seems to think that Dhoni should be taking more of a coaching role, perhaps. And just to add on to that, what is Fleming's status in all of this? I mean, it hasn't been a successful season for them. Do you think it's time for a change on the coaching side?
Absolutely not, to begin with. So this is how I think about it. There is at least one more season left in MS. And the way CSK have done things is they've looked at short term, historically, especially after 2018. I mean, a lot of people talk about the team which we have now. They've made one final, they've won one title, which is more than good enough. I mean, for somebody like Shane Watson, he's won us a final worth only 4 crores. So the management aspect of it, it's done very well, I think. And this is where sort of Stephen Fleming comes in, where he looks at the overseas players. I don't think MS really would have rated Santner, for example. He wouldn't have seen much of him, or he wouldn't have said, I want Sam Curran. It would have been Fleming who went after it. It's about MS nurturing them after they come in. That's a separate thing altogether. But for now, at least for the next 2-3 years,
maybe MS can continue in the capacity of a mentor like Sachin did for Mumbai Indians, but not be a head coach as such. And to add to that Spark comment, a lot of people have read too much into it, is what I feel. It's not like I'm defending, but it was more of a catch-22 situation, I think, wherein even today at the end of the match, he said it is not a bad thing that they went for experience. They had to either go for youth or experience. And you look at it, Shane Watson has been their highest scorer for the last 3 seasons, just above Ambati Rayudu and MS Dhoni. So I think it was a right call. But it's all in all, it's a good thing that finally they look past him and they encourage somebody like Ruturaj. And I necessarily don't think that MS should be a coach for now. He has one more season. We will come back. We will play in India, hopefully, and we'll lift that trophy. Maybe then he can step down as captain and like whatever the haters can have their way. Yeah.
Awesome. So there is still hope. I'm glad to see that CSK fans haven't given up hope completely. Anand, I'm going to ask you a question. Was leaving Tahir out this season a tactical error? I mean, he was the second, I think he was the highest wicket taker last year, wasn't he? With Rabada following him. So was he leaving him out a tactical error from the Chennai management? He only played the last few games, which they won.
I mean, yeah, he should have ideally been there from the first game. The fact that they lost Suresh Raina meant that that they had to fill in two batsmen.
And Harbhajan Singh as well.
Yeah, and Harbhajan Singh. But the fact that they had 2 foreign players who had to get in there meant that both Watson and Faf had to bat up. And the fact that Sam Curran did well, couldn't get Tahir in. We all knew that. But of course, in hindsight now to look at it, we could have definitely had Tahir in and hopefully had a chance to get someone like Jadeja up the order and give more chances for someone like even Sam Curran instead of playing both Watson and Faf for the first half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Naveen, I'm going to come to you for what is going to be probably the last question on this. Who do you think can replace Dhoni as the captain for the CSK eventually?
Kane Williamson.
It's Kane Williamson.
Yeah, I see him as the successor of Dhoni. I think they have the similar traits.
Sole successor.
Cool. Yeah, captain calls both of them. Hopefully, obviously Fleming and Kane Williamson have that New Zealand connect. So hopefully we can rope him in post 2021. I think there's the big mega auctions. If SRH don't retain him, so hopefully I see Kane Williamson as a successor of them.
Very interesting. I'm actually going to ask each one of you that in turn. So Uday, have you got a successor in mind for MS?
Definitely Kane Williamson as well. Even the New Zealand connect with Stephen Fleming would definitely make him a good choice.
Very interesting. Ajinkya, have you got someone in mind? Because I actually thought Owen Morgan might be a good one for them. But of course, Kane seems to be the prime candidate.
Even I was thinking that Kane could be the prime candidate, to be really honest. But I listened to Anant, and there's a very interesting point that he made about Ishan Kishan. If Mumbai is not going to rope him in, Ishan Kishan, a Jharkhand wicketkeeper batsman, can actually lead CSK further ahead. He had mentioned that in 2016 Under-19 World Cup as well. The reason he was named captain ahead of Rishabh Pant, I'm really sorry, I like Pant, but the reason was that he was a Jharkhand wicketkeeper batsman. So I think he could make it too.
Incredible. Ishan Kishan, that's a huge call. Jay, any thoughts on the future captain for the CSK?
Well, I'm also going to go with Kane Williamson, with MS Dhoni and Williamson having those similar styles of, well, not really similar styles, but like they're both calm on the field, and then like you wouldn't want one captain who's doing stuff one way and then you have a huge change onto a different captain who's doing things different ways. So you wouldn't really want that huge change in just one season. So I think definitely Kane Williamson should be the captain if CSK managed to get him in.
Interesting. It seems that a foreign captain, most teams try not to have a foreign captain just because it takes up a foreign spot. But very interesting that Kane seems to be getting the vote here. Anant, any thoughts on Kane or someone else as future CSK captain?
I mean, Kane's dream, right? So like everyone said, Williamson would be like the perfect pick. But if not for Williamson, if they're not going to have like Williamson, then there is already Faf du Plessis who's there, who's been with the side for the last like 9 years or so. So
and as captain South Africa,
and as captain South Africa as well. So and he's been part of the leadership group as well within CSK. So he would be a natural fit in if they can't get a Williamson in.
Brilliant, Avinash. quickly, your thoughts on...
I think we shouldn't have an international captain because, as you mentioned, it allows, if you have an Indian player as a captain, it allows you to have an extra foreign player. And plus, it's symbolical to have an Indian captain in the Indian Premier League. But yeah, I agree with Kane Williamson. I think he's a perfect candidate. But I'm not so sure if Hyderabad is going to let him out. But yeah, Faf is definitely a good one. Although his captaincy in the South African team wasn't that great. But I think he has done well in the domestic T20 circuit.
Rohit, finally, any question about Kane replacing him? Any other candidates you want to put out there?
So, my opinion is that ideally we shouldn't be looking at a captain per se as of now. We should build a team and then look for a captain material within. And that being said, I wouldn't want to lean towards Kane Williamson, and I don't see India Cement doing that as well because they've run cricket for about 20, 30 years now. And they would be backing an Indian choice. And for me, I think not many people rate him. But look at his Syed Mushtaq Ali performance as a captain. I think Manish Pandey would be a great fit for Chennai. He's a great player of spin. So that straight away tells you he's going to play 7 good games for you, more often than not. And then he's a very calm head. He's charismatic on the field and he lifts the spirit of the entire fielding team, especially that's when the captain comes in. So for me, somebody like a Manish Pandey or an Indian choice is a good choice. But then again, once the mega auction hits, you look for leaders within and you don't necessarily go after captains. Just like we did in 2008. Chennai never had Dhoni. They got Dhoni and then they made him the captain.
Very sensible, very sensible. And Ashwin will be extremely pleased to hear one of his favourite players is being considered in the same breath as MSD and as his successor.
He absolutely deserves it. I do think it's interesting that most of these guys have picked Hyderabad players to either Williamson or Pandey to succeed. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Sunrisers let go of these guys, right?
Interesting that no one actually went for Suresh Raina, as Udai has just asked in the chat box. Maybe the little balcony hotel fracas is going to count against him, but I guess time will tell. Srini Mama will tell us the answer in a few months, right? When the mega auction comes about. But guys, it has been a pleasure speaking to you, all of you. I'm sorry that there's a lot of you, so hopefully you've had enough to talk about your favorite team. Thank you all so much for joining us. It is it's great to see so much passion for this very, very successful franchise. I always say it's my second franchise because MS plays for it. I'm not sure whether it will stay my second franchise once MSD stops being involved in any capacity with it. But who knows? Maybe someone else will come along. But you guys have had a fantastic run, 10 years in the playoffs every time you've been there. Just missing out this year, of course, knocked out early in the piece. But I'm sure you guys will be back stronger next year, and there will be some trades made, and you'll be back to your favorite stadium in the Chepauk with hopefully a bunch of fans screaming out MSD, MSD. And thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
And for you all,
thank you.
I hope DC wins the title this time around because you guys are.
Oh, that is the dream, man. We're waiting.
Thank you, Rohit. We deserve it.
We're sweating for tomorrow's game.
Hopefully they win the game on Monday first.
We have to. Right?
Hopefully they win a game. That's all we want. One game.
But I guess everyone here would be happy if MI loses anyway, though.
Yes, absolutely.
There's this classic rivalry, but I'm not a hater of MI. I just think they are the most balanced side ever in this IPL.
There was a point of being called as traitor by Hyderabad people. Me being from Pune, everyone in Maharashtra expects me to support MI, but I don't support them. And that's why I'm also being called as a traitor in that aspect. So yeah, I want MI to
support the rising Pune Supergiant for the 2 years?
Yes, I did.
Okay, there you go. Then you're not a traitor.
So 1 year was pretty good. The other one wasn't that great, right?
I supported GL at that time, you can say.
They sacked MS as captain. So
no, it was CSK 1 versus CSK 2.
Indeed. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Thanks all of you for joining us. Ashwin, should we do a quick fantasy wrap up? Because, I wait for this every week. Are any of you guys in the fantasy league, and how are you guys doing? Are your teams in the Edges and Sledges fantasy cricket league?
Yeah, I have a team. Mine is Gully Warriors. But I didn't change it much. So I had a single team throughout the tournament.
Oh, wow. So you've literally taken the tournament format very, very seriously. But let me just do the quick wrap up, Ashwin. The top three, Akhil's team, the Superstars, rank 1 again this week with 13,399 points. I mean, fantastic run from that guy. Jitin's best 11 at number 2 with 13,014.5 points. Brilliant. And your favorite team, Ashwin, is back in the top 3. Can you guess which one it is?
I want you to say it. I don't want to say it.
It's Jai Pathan Jali Baba is back
There you go.
at 3 with 12,943. Brilliant. But let's see where we're sitting now, Ashwin. We had an interesting week. You guys had trumped or captained Ben Stokes last week. So Varun opened up a little bit of a lead. But I'm pleased to say that you're sitting at rank 19 with 12,262.5 points. So well done on that. I then need to scroll to myself.
You just called quite far just for yourself.
Oh, right? Not bad. It's 39.
20 positions. 20
positions is not bad in a 120 team league, man. I'm top third. It's okay. 39. I'm 39, which is, I have to say, admittedly, it's a lot better than where I was for a long time. 39, and Varun, now I have to scroll, 45. Tu Mera Viru. Varun is sitting at 11,645.5 points. What's up with him?
Man, I feel, what is the difference between your guys' points, though?
Our points, well, I'm 6 places ahead of him, and he's 11,645, and I'm 11,707. But
so you guys have 50 points. You're within 50 points, 60 points of each other, and you're trash talking him because he's not here.
I'm 6 spots ahead of him. Yeah, and he has 300 points. How has he managed to lose that lead again? I think he needs to get better, as you said.
Let's see. Oh, he picked Lockie Ferguson today, who got dropped. That's what it looks like in the KKR game.
But that's what happens when you don't follow the games and you just like try and wing it and not really like.
He has Ben Stokes as his captain, man. Just be careful before you jump ahead.
I've got Ben Stokes as my captain because I know he's going to do it every time, so I just match it.
Well, I don't have Stokes, so I just hope he fails today.
It's unlikely. Although Andre Russell is batting right now and he's just hit one out of the park. Wow, I haven't seen that for a long time. Anyway, guys, that's the wrap on this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will be back midweek and we will know whether the Delhi Capitals have qualified or the RCB have qualified or what the playoff standings are. And then we will have a chat about where the playoffs are likely to go. And next week we will be joined, and this was all planned, as you remember, Ashwin, depending on where we thought the teams would end up. We didn't think the CSK would be out. We kind of thought that this would be a lead up to the playoffs. But for that reason, we did Delhi Capitals up front and we did the Mumbai Indians last. So next week will be the Mumbai Indians special. I'm kind of hoping they'll be knocked out by then, but it seems pretty unlikely. But guys, that's the show. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, One Tip, One Hand, right in there. Contact at onetiponehand.com. And yeah, leave a review. We've got some lovely reviews from you guys on Apple Podcasts. So make sure that you write in with those reviews. And we will see you with the midweek episode, Ashwin and I, on Thursday. So stay tuned to Edges and Sledges and enjoy the IPL.
The year has changed. The sphere has changed. The faces have changed. The places have changed. The ballers have changed. The goals have changed. Changed are the scores. Changed are the cheering roars. Cricket has changed. But things that can never change is passion for cricket and the comfort to watch it at your home, built with SRG's strong and trusted plywood, blockboard and flush door. SRG Ply and Boards, with you since 1895. To know more about us, visit our website on www.srgroupindia.com.
रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे पॉडकास्ट लगते हैं. नाम है फुटबॉल शुटबॉल.
Presenting Football Shortball, a show about 3 friends discussing our favorite game over a beer. Sometimes 3, maybe even 5. Hi, I'm Shiva, and with me are my 2 sidekicks, Gaurav Sapre and Karthik Iyer.
Sidekick? You mean like Batman's Robin or Van Persie Robin?
No, I mean like Alexis Sanchez, but with a little more skill than just playing the piano.
Ha! Just shows how the best players at Arsenal are mere bench warmers at United.
Oh, thank you, Iyer. But you're a Fulham supporter, so whenever you say anything to support me, I question my beliefs.
Just like how Griezmann would say, एक बार मैंने जो decision ले लिया, तो मैं अपने आप की भी नहीं सुनता.
Banter aside, we will talk match reports, transfer rumors, top controversies, fantasy football picks, and so much more. So grab a beer and tune in to Football Shootball every Wednesday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts.